current here. So I think today will be about the current and identifying where it's strong. The last time I raced here, we actually were over the line at the start because we got pushed over by the current. So I'm on that today.
Great, well, good luck out there today.
Thank you very much.
See you when you get back.
The race, divided into 7 legs, has already seen the boats complete a sprint from Alicante, Spain to Cabo Verde, before heading down to the southern tip of Africa to Cape Town. Then came the record-breaking leg, 12,750 nautical miles, the 1-month marathon worth double points through the Southern Ocean from Cape Town to Itajaí, Brazil. Now leaving this stop in Brazil, the boats head north across the equator and up to Newport on the east coast of the United States. The fleet then returns to Europe on another double points leg with a transatlantic to Aarhus, Denmark, followed by a flyby in Kiel, Germany, en route to The Hague in the Netherlands, and finally into the Mediterranean with the grand finale, this offshore leg to Geneva, Italy.
Open. 1 minute to the warning system. seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
A clear indication that everyone on board is refusing to give up.
15 seconds. 10 seconds.
Well, before we go into the racing, let's take a quick look at the scores as they lie at the moment. After 3 legs completed, we have Team Holcim PRB in top spot, and they are, as I said, only 1 point away from a perfect score of 20, which would be the maximum. Team Milizia, the only boat to have beaten Kevin Escoffier in the offshore leg so far. 11th Hour Racing Team in 3rd, and then Biotherm and Guyot Environment Team Europe in 4th and 5th place. And if those scores get close, it will be the import races that decide how the ties are going to be broken. And for the moment, we have a tie in the import series. It's 11th Hour Racing Team with 2 second places with a total of 8 points, and Team Milizia with an incredibly strong performance in the light winds in Alicante, matching their points, but the tiebreak at the moment putting them in 2nd. Team Holcim PRB in 3rd, Guyot Environment Team Europe 4th, with Biotherm in 5th place. Well, the boats are on the water at the moment, just out of the mouth of the river from Itajaí, and you can see the race committee there with the start flag flying, and that will be one end of the start line at the moment. And we have just gone down to the 4 minute, the blue and the white flag going up, and the ticker going lower than 4 minutes. So we are getting into the mix here with 4 teams right now there, and Sam, at the moment, full mains up, jibs tucked away. We've got a few moments. Can you talk us through the racetrack and how it looks today?
Yeah, Niall, it's as the import races are a square course, rectangular course, start line in the middle of the course with then a reaching leg to mark 1, a jibe round to mark 2, reaching back to mark 3, tack to get to mark 4, then you're through the gate, and then repeat the same rectangle a second time. It's a 2-lap course in theory today, obviously, unless the wind drops out completely.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Sam, because there was some debate as to whether the race management team would put on a 2-lap race, would tuck it down to 1 lap. So I guess they always do have the opportunity to shorten the course if the wind does get light.
Exactly. It looks like there's some good breeze. The flags are flying, well, you can see they're trying out or unfurling their J0s. So these are the light wind sails that everybody's got on now. And actually, the J0 is quite a good sail for the crew, because it's a sail that will get you all the way around the race course. So in terms of manoeuvres, in the light winds, you generally don't have so many sail changes to do. So it's a little bit easier for the crew. So you've got Marie Rioux in the foreground. She's a really great tactician, so Paul will be happy to have her on board for this import race.
Interesting to see somebody actually taking that spot at the back of the boat. We don't normally see too much of that. It's normally just the skipper with everyone else down below, but I'm guessing, Sam, in these light winds, actually it's quite nice to have some extra eyes out of the boat. We are now 1 minute 45 to go, and this is that final run in. And having been on these boats sailing this kind of short course, how critical are the seconds here on this approach to the start line?
They are critical, and the start is critical, especially on a reaching course like this, where it's a reaching start. So you want to hit the line with the boat going as fast as possible, preferably to windward, otherwise you're going to get rolled. And as it's a reaching course, there's less opportunities to overtake with a strategy. So it really is a boat speed course, and the start is crucial.
Right now, the big question is whether Guyot Environment Team Europe, who have got that J0 out and now just starting to furl it, so that might actually answer this question. I was wondering whether they were too close to the line. They're a long way forward compared to everybody else, but they are slowing down. It's Team Holcim PRB further back as we go back on board now to that lured position on board 11th Hour Racing Team. And I think I could just hear Charlie Enright in my ear. No words said, but clearly just saying you need to keep up there, and it's all going to be about getting past this race control boat here at the bottom of the screen. The other end of the line is off to the left-hand side of our picture, and Team Milizia are coming in here, or indeed actually off to the right-hand side of the picture. It looks like 11th Hour Racing Team now happy that they've held the entire fleet up. Now dialing down, getting that acceleration. This will be the push for the line. It's Bioterm holding up Guyot Environment Team Europe, that position for Robert Stanjek, not proving well. Benjamin Dutroux, the co-skipper, now having to fight for scraps, any space left. But will Team Holcim PRB be able to hold out Paul Mayer? It's not going to work. And right now, 11th Hour Racing Team have the speed in that leeward position. The gun fires, the line is clear. They look to me to be conservatively quite far back, and Team Milizia with the weakest start. Very interesting that those final few moments came down to a little bit of give-way action. I mean, Sam, right now, Team Milizia are in big trouble.
Yeah, they have the gas masks on, I think, which is going to be, it's going to be tricky for them to get out of that situation. And interesting to see two strategies. So obviously, if, it looks like 11th Hour really wanted the lured start, so they've got room to luff up and accelerate if necessary. Obviously, if you want to get that, then you've really got to be on the line with boat speed to not get rolled. And then Biotherm with the other option of taking maybe the slightly safer option of the windward start to be sure to have clear air.
And it's really going to hurt Team Milizia here. I mean, that shot doesn't quite do it justice, but they are drifting back. But you've got to hand it to Charlie Enright and the team of 11th Hour Racing Team. That was a great start, always risky at the leeward end. And I guess at this point, it's probably a good time for me to bring in our third commentator. We have got Mark Towell, part of the management team for 11th Hour Racing Team. And let's be honest, this has got to put a smile on your face here, Mark. That was a good start.
Great start for the team so far. Obviously, with these reaching and rectangular courses, a massive emphasis on the start and getting off clean, and so far so good for our team.
Very, very, very strong. And right now you can see the difference in breeze. Team Milizia have got a lot of heel there, which is interesting. They might be able to hold on to enough breeze here. But Sam, we are about halfway along this top reach. It does look like there's enough power here. How challenging is it going to be for these sailors to make that turn onto that short downwind? Are we going to see a change from the J0, or do you think it's just going to be that sail all the way around?
I think it's going to be that sail all the way around. The J0 can sail upwind and downwind in less than 8 knots. That's the sail from pretty much everywhere. So, yeah, as I said, it's going to be easy for the manoeuvres, but tricky to trim the boat to get the best boat speed, and that's going to be, it's going to be the trimmer's war to see who can, as Annie Lush calls it, it's going to be a trim off.
It's going to be a trim off, and of course that other factor that you mentioned before, the tide, I think that's starting to come into play here. Always tricky to see from the shots, but it almost looks like there's a little bit of movement on the water from left to right. I mean, Mark, they seem like the boats are a little bit bow up here.
Yeah, plenty of tide here. The race course is set just on the exit of the river, and so teams will have to be managing that. Particularly important as we get to the marks and the ley lines to make sure that they're setting themselves up for success.
Well, we've got Jack Boutel head in the bubble there as we are on board with 11th Hour Racing Team. And of course, Jack is not doing the next offshore leg, but he is still on board for this inshore race. And right now, this is a hell of a way to step off the boat with a strong performance.
Yeah, Jack's plays a critical role, as all of our sailors do, on the performance and also the preparation of the boat. Incredible, big emphasis on consistency, particularly with these inshore courses and all the maneuvers involved. So great to have him here with us in Itajaí.
Now we can see Team Holcim PRB second place at the moment as that first turning mark is coming into view. 11th Hour Racing Team in first place. Just behind Kevin Escoffier, we have got Bioterm, and look at this, out on the bow, that's Annemieke Bess providing those eyes forward. Annemieke Bess, having done the ocean race before, very experienced in offshore sailing, and of course an Olympian as well, an Olympian medalist, now helping Kevin Escoffier guide the boat round Mark 1 as it's 11th Hour Racing Team leading on the first turning mark at the Itajaí import, having placed themselves perfectly to exploit the breeze on this first reaching leg. The big ease of that J0, but there's still power for this boat as it turns downwind. We'd expect the boat speed to slow a little bit, but Sam, I mean, you called it with that J0, and I think all the sailors agree. Right now, it's about keeping things simple and perhaps just being able to react to the breeze.
Yeah, exactly. This is the tricky bit, soaking down. There's a bit of distance between Mark 1 and Mark 2, and they're dead downwind, so they're going to have to get that ley line right. There's going to be a jibe on the ley line, and you can see there's a bit of a luffing war going on. Those three boats are really close, so it's going to be the strategy of when to call the jibe and pulling that jibe off well. I did see that there was a bit of different strategies as well, with Holcim PRB sailing the whole of that first leg with their windward foil already out, trying to limit the kind of the winch juggling in the cockpit, and the other two boats, they were actually deploying the foil as they bore away. So yeah, there's even though there's only the same sail, there's no sail changes. The crews are still going to be full on in the cockpit, manhandling those foils in and out, and doing their best to trim the sail properly down this run.
Yeah, and as you say, Sam, big tactical decisions to come here. The soak mode versus the high road. We saw in the Alicante import race the fleet inverted a few times on that exact mark, and here now we see that the fleet's jibed, and it looks like the top two boats have been able to maintain their position so far.
And not only that, Mark, but of course we have also seen your boat, the boat that we are seeing here through the four triangle of Team Holcim PRB, 11th Hour Racing Team, being aggressive in their tactics, getting on the inside. And, you know, Sam, you called that luff, and it could have been for the breeze, but it was certainly a move that benefited Charlie Enright and 11th Hour Racing Team, pushing the fleet out and holding them. And look at this, we've got 11th Hour Racing Team and Team Holcim PRB with Biotherm just languishing there, and it's going to allow Guyot Environment Team Europe. I mean, Sam, this is always quite nice when you're back in fourth place to see 1, 2 and 3 duking it out, and you can exploit the fact that they're slowing each other down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think Biotherm's got there may be a little bit of a better ley line. I'm not sure if Guyot managed to soak down and get the inside turn there. It's interesting to see who's going to come out with that third place. But you can see also they've got all their guests on the bow. Everyone's keeping the weight forward on these boats, which is what you have to do in the light stuff to try and limit the drag of the aft section of the hull in the slower speeds.
On board now with 11th Hour Racing Team. Let's have a listen in. The atmosphere on board 11th Hour Racing Team certainly seems pretty calm. I mean, what a change that we've seen from Cape Town. But you know, Sam, with these boats, they're only going to need a couple more knots of wind speed, and suddenly the gears are shifted, and actually, you know, you're hanging on. I'm guessing that's why that it wasn't the look of too much calm on Charlie Enright's face.
No, I think he's pretty concentrated, and yeah, it's great. There's enough breeze to keep the boats moving, albeit we're not foiling, they're not foiling, but they're still going forwards, I think just over 10 knots, which is pretty good, and which is good for the 2 laps. It looks like we'll complete the full course. And yeah, you have to keep that concentration to make sure your trajectory is perfect, and you've got the sails trimmed right. It's as I said, it's a boat speed war right now, to get as quickly as possible to that next mark.
And it's going to be that next mark. I mean, we don't normally see a lot of pace changes on this reach. And Mark, I mean, for you right now, you're cheering on your team, 11th Hour Racing Team. I do enjoy being joined in the commentary box by so many partisan commentators, whether it's Biotherm or 11th Hour Racing Team. But, you know, Mark, for you guys, that lead coming through, you're hoping that everything stretches out on this bottom reach.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing for any of the boats in front really is to stretch out. I think the biggest mistake is for the top two boats to start trying to luff each other up or tangle each other up, because you just allow the boats behind to close down the distance. So I wouldn't be surprised if everyone sails straight in here, tries to call a nice clean lay line, and set themselves up for a clean upwind beat to the next mark.
And it's going to be that beat. If we see some plate changes before this first lap is completed, it's going to be that upward beat that we're going to see it. Right now we are about 2/3 of the way completed on that bottom reach before the left-hand turn, tighter into the breeze, the short upwind, and then that short reach into the line, which will be the conclusion of the first lap. 2 laps to go, and this is the battle at the back. And Team Military, I mean, I've got to say, I thought they were further back from that. I thought that start would hurt them more, but Mark, you know, they're still just about in touch.
Yeah, no, they've done a nice job keeping the game close. It's tough to be in the position they were in, sort of bow back and to lure it off the start, particularly in a reaching start. But they've done well to stay in touch with the fleet, and we'll see what opportunities present themselves for them.
So I learned something, I didn't realise this, in the import races, because you actually get to see the onboard reporter, because you've actually got a second media man on board, filming for the live. That was something I learned when I was on board Biotherm, and I suddenly realised we actually get to see the onboard reporters in these import races.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There is another camera. There's another camera operator on board these boats, just joining us for the import race, and it was a bit of a baptism of fire for them when they were on board for Cape Town. Now it's a little bit different, and that's why we can enjoy some of the conversation on board. And I guess it will be interesting to hear the conversations on board 11th Hour Racing Team at this point, because they are facing a crucial moment here. They are turning now and onto that upwind leg. They do have some distance between them and Team Wholesome PRB, and that distance could be scrubbed. They could use that distance, give it up, gamble with it, to secure a strong position between them and Kevin Escoffier, blocking the breeze. But right now, I've got to say, I mean, when we last checked in with these two boats here, Mark, I mean, there was a bit of a lead. That's stretched.
Yeah, the distance is certainly stretched out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of compression on this upwind leg. You know, I think really for all the boats, the emphasis is on keeping it simple, having one clean maneuver, calling a good lay line, particularly taking the current into account, and keeping their eyes out of the boat for where the upcoming breeze is going to be.
Around that mark, and it does look like Team Wholesome PRB are just a little bit tighter. Sam, sorry, I mean, you're going to say it's tricky. I mean, I'm almost looking at that helicopter shot. It looks like the breeze is getting light. I hate to be pessimistic, but this is going to be hard to find the breeze all the way around.
Yeah, it looks like this end of the racecourse is a bit lighter. And what I was saying, that I guess the stressful moment now is to pull off a really good tack. And there's two different ways of doing attacking the J0. You've got to get it to go round the front of the J2. So either you furl and you redeploy the sail, or you just let it go round and it rubs around the front of the J2. There's two ways of doing it, depending on the wind strength, and there's ways of getting that wrong. So if you redeploy your sail before the bow has gone through head to wind, you can risk having your sail come out on the wrong side and stopping the boat. So let's see how they do that tack. So they're going for the furl deploy option. I know on Biotherm sometimes they just let the sail blow through, so let's see who does the best tack.
Well, you called it, Sam, and I think you're absolutely right, because you're reminding us all of what we have seen with Team Wholesome PRB, getting stuck head to wind with a bad furl and then deployment. But for 11th Hour Racing Team, that looks clean, that looks clear, and Team Wholesome PRB are not going to be gifted a few more boat lengths to try and sort of close up. As we are on board now, and there we can see Annemieke Best, eyes out, absolutely looking for any little half-metre worth of gain. Is it worth just holding that tack off a little bit longer, try and sail into a little bit more breeze, or are they going to follow Charlie Enright's line? Now it looks like they're going for the tack. Let's stay on board here for this manoeuvre.
I repeat, the sea flag is displayed.
Okay, so as we look back on the satellite, helicopter here, it's probably worth just checking in with what's happening on the conditions at the moment. Down on the water we have Pierre Boulin from part of the shore crew from Guyot Environment Team Europe, a foiling sailor himself. And let's go down to Pierre and just see if we can get a gauge as to what's happening on the racetrack and what's happening with those conditions.
Yes, so it's the last leg of the race, and we can see like all the boats are like collés à la piste, as we say in French, but 11-hour racing are doing great in these conditions, and maybe it's the last attack for the other boats, and maybe Guyot can try to pass Biotherm. I don't know. It's a difficult condition for the big boats here in Itajaí.
Difficult conditions indeed. Thank you very much, Pierre, because what we are seeing here while we are on board with Biotherm is just how hard they are working here. Mark, I mean, this is quite frantic in the light winds.
Yeah, it's a bit deceiving. Just because the breeze is down doesn't mean it's not challenging for the team. So we've still got to do big furls and unfurls. The beauty of these masthead J0s is they provide a lot of power and light air, but what it actually means is during the maneuvers there's much more physical activity going on, just bringing the sails in and out.
I'm looking at the left-hand side of the screen. It's just going out of view, but it looked like it was a very bad furl and redeployment from Guyot Environment Team Europe as we focus now on Team Wholesome PRB. And Sam, interesting to see that Biotherm tacked earlier than Team Wholesome PRB and potentially could make a little bit of a gain here with a tidier ley line.
Yeah, looks like they got that really nicely, and that's always the advantage of not being the lead boat, as you can use the boat in front of you to see if it's over the ley line or if it's if it's a bit tight, so you can judge your tack on the previous boats. So now they're heading. They've got to pass through the gate, which is the start line, past the committee boat before they head off to the next mark.
I think it's worth pointing out that Biotherm pulled quite an aggressive move there, attacking to leeward of Wholesome PRB. To quote a great American movie, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. But it looks like they were able to pull it off and make their way toward the next mark safely.
And it is going to be all about gaining small boat lengths, getting tight enough behind the competition, and then pounce. I mean, this course, the way that it's sort of set up, we don't see the boats winning and losing huge amounts. It's all about just reeling the boats in, or conversely, as your team is successfully doing at the moment, Mark, stretching out ahead.
Sure, I think as we've said, the big emphasis on keeping it simple. We saw the bad tack there on Guyot Team Environment, and that'll ultimately lose them a few meters in the race course, allowing Malizzi to stay in touch. Again, just an emphasis on keeping it simple.
Sam, I just want to get your reflection here, having been on for the import race in Cape Town, and I know the conditions were very different, the feel of the boat was very different, but how much, when you're racing this import course as a sailor, how much are you thinking, go easy on the equipment here, because we have got to do a lot of offshore miles in just a few days?
I think what you kind of say that in your briefing just before, when you leave the dock. And then as soon as you get out the start line, that competitive instinct comes in, and all those good intentions just drift out of your head, and you go back into race mode. And I think at the end of the day, and that's what we learnt on Biotherm, is that you want to test the boat because you want to actually find the weaknesses before you leave to go on a long offshore leg. And so it could be an advantage to save the gear, but at the end of the day, we're there to race, and we're there to try and win the maximum number of points. And I think no one's going to be really backing off. Everyone's going to be trying to win every race.
And we're talking about winning every point. This is a boat here, Guyot Environment Team Europe, that needs to win every point. I mean, Mark, is the feeling among the sailors the same as I think journalistically and the fans? This boat has underperformed. They haven't reached their top yet.
I think it's a solid boat. It was actually, we've spent a fair time with this boat in our team, and Ben and Robert and the guys on board, they're a really solid group of guys and girls. So I think they're finding their way, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them, particularly with some of the conditions to come. This boat's got a lot of strength, so I would be surprised to see them up on the leaderboard.
Absolutely, and of course this is the boat that outplayed yourself and many other Amoccas when we get into that light winds in Europe, in the Ocean Race Europe. This was the boat that win. We are on board at the moment. Let's have a listen.
Okay.
Well, from the heli shot there, you can see just how much that fleet has stretched out, with Guyot Environment Team Europe taking a slightly more windward line into the next mark, and you can see the second rounding of Mark 1 on the horizon, the big white square and its 11th hour racing team nearly there as we move our way through the fleet. And Sam, you were talking before about keeping things simple with the J0, one sail all the way around the course, and I'm guessing it's the same strategy with the foils, keeping them both deployed.
Yeah, it looks like all the boats now have got them both deployed. They're so hard to get in and out. I'm not sure if there's a boat where it's easy to grind them in and out, but it's a big grind. It's a purchase system to hold them out, and it takes a lot of time and energy. So this is a leg where you can maybe get some heel, and you can see on these pictures with Biotherm, they're not heeling enough to get the foil out of the water, but nearly. So I'm sure Paul will be thinking about that, trying to keep a bit of heel on, and that will reduce the drag, and so then and then that windward foil's not really slowing you down at all.
One thing I think is interesting to notice across the fleet here is there's a bit of a difference in communication that's happening on board. With some of the ergonomics and differences of the boats, you saw Annemiek up on the bow of Holcim Team PRB using a headset, and Kevin had one on as well, and we utilized those on our boat. But then Paul in that last shot communicating with his team just without any communication technology. So it's a big challenge with these boats, the enclosedness of the cockpit, being able to simply just communicate with those up on the bow, and how that plays out in the import race. Interesting to see.
It's incredible actually how much it changes the game, being so plugged into each other. And I know that so many sailors, Olympic sailors, and I'm sure your team as well, 11th hour racing team, the tone of your voice in those stressful moments is so critical. And being on board these boats and sort of joining you guys for a couple of practice races, the headset keeps the tone very calm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you can communicate with someone all the way up on the bow and essentially be whispering to them. You don't need to yell and shout as we would have on the 65s or other boats in the past. But on the flip side, it can be cumbersome. There's too much communication, and you don't have the ability to just talk to someone right next to you. So you need to utilize the technology in the right way.
Now, Sam, I know that this is just small things that we're seeing here, and I know that this is just one snapshot, but we are watching now Team Holcim PRB starting their downwind journey, rounding Mark 1 for the second time, and quite a way ahead is 11th hour racing team. Kevin Escoffier, as a sailor, we've got to be honest here, he's a very intense sailor, and Sam, any boat getting a slight edge over him, it does affect him here. I mean, it's interesting to see little boats being able to possibly just get inside his head before the next offshore leg.
For sure. As I was saying, I think it's that competitive instinct that comes out, and you're just doing your best to try and catch up that boat in front. And the same, you can see it on Paul's face as well, the concentration, trying to just make his boat go as fast as possible, and helping the crew in the cockpit to get that perfect trim. And like I said, like Mark was saying, that the communications are tricky, and when you're closed inside the cockpit, even if you do have a headset on, you don't have the wind on your cheeks, you can't really see the sails as well, and you can't feel the helm, and communication's really important. But yeah, it's a mix between concentration, trying to beat the boat in front, and concentration, just trying to get the best out of your own boat at the time as well.
Absolutely, Sam. And just a little check-in on the conditions. It's great to see that the breeze looks like it's holding or even slightly increasing. Definitely a bit more pressure on this side of the course. But listening in our weather briefings this morning, the forecast was anywhere from 3 to 5 knots, and it looks like we've got a bit more. So hopefully the breeze holds all the way to the finish.
We have had a little bit of rain coming over the city and out onto the race course, and that's why you're seeing some differences in gear. Some of the sailors wrapped up, some of them not. Let's go on board now with Guyot Environment Team Europe.
It's completely downwind.
Just great to see how relaxed these guys are. Obviously, they had a bad maneuver in the first lap, but it doesn't appear to phase how they're, sailing the boat and communicating. It seems quite crisp and clean, which is great.
It's Team Milizia with Will Harris as the skipper that needs to improve their game a little bit. I mean, this boat, let's not forget, in the Import Series is tied for first place with 11th Hour Racing Team, but this performance here will be giving up any hope of being on that top spot for now at least. And this is short racing. This is just it's a blink of an eye compared to what we do on the offshore legs. But let's not forget that the offshore leg on Sunday will begin with something like this. And I have seen, I mean, Sam, I have seen you guys out in the water. I know how hard you fight for every boat length, even when you have 5,000 miles left to go. So for all of these teams right now, certainly for 11th Hour Racing Team, this has got to be a confidence booster.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's great. The 2 days before a leg start, if you can pull off a win, for sure that boosts the atmosphere on board, and it's great to have that. There's a lot of crew change, a few crew changes. It's great to a great way to start with a new crew on a long leg with an import race win behind you. That's definitely gives you a mental advantage.
And an advantage coming from the breeze for some of the boats here, with Team Milizia getting a really low line here with Guyot Environment Team Europe, hoping to hold on to fourth place on the left-hand side. And then look at this, with Bioterm moving up into second place. So they obviously, Mark, they picked the right spot to jibe here, and it looks like behind them, perhaps the same thing is going to play out.
Yeah, this is one of the only passing lanes in the whole racetrack here, and we talked about it in the first lap, whether you take the high lane and keep the speed up, or whether you try to soak inside and feed the boat in front to the jibe. It looks like that low inside soak mode's paid out for both Bioterm as well as Milizia.
This is probably a good time to mention the fact that both of these boats do have some big rotations in their crew, and I would say that Team Holcim PRB probably has the biggest. I mean, 3 new names coming in for that team. There's no real way to pretend that that's anything other than major. I mean, Fabien Delahaye was a member of the team, was a member of the performance team, but of course just learning all the ergonomics, along with Benjamin Schwartz and Annemieke Bess as well. All good sailors, all skilled. But, I mean, Sam, you sailed on board these Amokas, stepping on board these boats and then going into the tight corners import racing. It is a learning curve.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky, and I'm sure they've been made the most of the last 2 days of prime racing to learn all the colours of the ropes. That's definitely what I did in Cape Town. And but yeah, you have to be really, really focused to not make a mistake and to try and do your best job around these short courses. But Kevin and Paul's the same. Bioterm it's 3 new crew members too, so both Holcim, PRB and Bioterm it's the same. And Kevin and Paul, they know their boats really well, and again it's all about comms, and the skippers really helping the crew verbally and briefing every maneuver, and then you can I guess compensate for the lack of practice with good communications on board. Pretty tricky war going on here for that dead downwind to the mark. Bit of goose swinging going on. Don't see that often in the Mocha.
We've actually got Guyot back on starboard jibe here. Both boats back on starboard jibe, but kind of a classic match racing move.
I think they're both hunting or trying to break the overlap here, and this is going to be critical here because Guyot Environment Team Europe are not overlapped with Team Milizia, which means that Team Milizia is free at this point to turn jibe and round that mark, and that forces Benjamin Dutroux on the helm of Guyot Environment Team Europe to follow behind them. You can see why they haven't tried to furl up that J0 even though it is on the wrong side. It's because they know they're about to jibe back. So they had a little bit of a swipe. They didn't quite manage to slip past again from Team Milizia. So rounding Mark II for the second time, it is now Team Milizia in fourth with Guyot Environment Team Europe behind in fifth. But my word, it almost saw another place change on that downwind leg.
Yeah, really tight race in there, and interesting to see how close they were to the mark. Obviously, you wouldn't want to hook that with the foil. But now it'll be all about getting the speeds back up and getting the boats back to their full performance for this next leg.
A full performance is needed, and right now I would say the Team Militia look like they have a little bit of a speed edge. Guyot Environment, Team Europe slightly in the exhaust of the German boat there, so the speed advantage, the breeze advantage will be with Will Harris, Sea Explorer, and Team Militia. But of course this is the battle for 4th and 5th. There is still the battle raging for 2nd and 3rd, further ahead in the field, and then of course all the way out, a long way ahead of Team Militia and Guyot Environment, Team Europe, is 11th Hour Racing Team. There you can see just how much the fleet has split, and we are pretty close here to 11th Hour Racing Team finishing this long reach at the bottom before they start that last short upwind and then come through the finish line to conclude the import race. So just before we get to that point, let's see if we can go back down to the water and Pierre Boulin down there to get an update on the breeze and ask ourselves whether there is any risk to 11th Hour Racing Team here. Hopefully the breeze will hold, but let's get the latest.
Yes, I just can see here that the breeze is very, very light, so very complicated for all the skippers to have a great speed, and we can see 2 overtakes on the downwind. So I think it's really important for the skipper to take the inside of the course for try to make some overtakes.
I completely agree with you, Pierre, about being on the inside. I mean, Sam, in all the other import races, that's certainly where we have seen those moves, taking that inside line. But it's not too easy, and I'm guessing here, Sam, for 11th Hour Racing Team with all those boats behind, there's no pressure here. They could lose boat lengths, and it's not going to hurt them at this stage.
Yeah, they've pulled out a nice lead. That takes it, definitely that takes the pressure off, getting that tack in. They've just got that one manoeuvre to do to get that clean, not make any technical mistakes, which there shouldn't be any issues there. And yeah, they're pretty happy, and they can see that the 2 boats behind them, they're more worried about each other than they're worried about 11th Hour. So it's definitely they should be able to enjoy that last leg into the finish.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Bioterm now is being sensible, knowing that they're not going to close down this boat here, 11th Hour Racing Team. Charlie Enright not taking his eyes off the telltales, the instruments, the feel of the boat, staying very much locked in with Jack Boutel down below, helping him on the comm system with that trim. And you know, Mark, you know Charlie incredibly well. You know, teenage friends, and you've been through a lot of adventures together. With everything that this team, your team, have been through on the last leg, this is not winning the ocean race. I mean, and I don't want to jinx it, but you know, a victory here in the import race over these teams here, it's got to add to a good feeling on board.
Yeah, it's all about taking incremental steps. We as a team have really taken a deep look at where we're at and how we've approached the first half of the race. We've spent a lot of time focusing on how we're going to break down the second half and really breaking it down into small, achievable goals. Obviously, having a good performance here today helps, and it'll be on to Sunday after this.
It's great to see. Looks like the communications are working already with this new crew on Bioterm. Marie is, I think, her Olympic instinct is there, and she's really running that the boat speed and helping Paul out on the race course. There's a bit of pressure. You can feel the pressure on board. They obviously can feel the whole Simply Army breathing down their necks, but I don't think they're not gonna let them back fast. I don't think. That's great to see. It's great to see that Paul's got a 50-50 crew, so that's the first. You know, obviously the ocean race rules are you have to have a mixed crew with one female crew member, and on this leg Paul has Mariana and Marie Ryu, so they're full mixed 50-50. Well, actually they're more than mixed because their onboard reporter Anne is also a female sailor, so there's more girls and guys on that boat. So it's good to see that you're not just taking a woman on board for the rules, you're taking them for their skills. So we'll probably see more of that in the future.
Yeah, because right now the performance of Bioterm is strong, and they're just coming into view on the right-hand side of the helicopter shot. And look at how high they are to the breeze here. I think they've come around that mark deliberately tight, sacrificing speed, but absolutely locking off any chance of moving up for Kevin Escoffier on Team Holcim PRB. That was really defensive there, Mark.
Yeah, but a great call, particularly with one leg left in the race. I think you're very happy if you're in their position to luff up just after that leeward mark there. Sacrifice a little bit of speed, but position yourself upwind and really lock down any potential full seam PRB getting around you.
Well, it's an 11th hour racing team that probably have the biggest smiles of any of the boats, and for very good reason. There they are, going past, finishing off that short upwind leg. Now they're onto a very short reach into the finish. Still no smile yet on the face of Charlie Enright. He is still locked in here, but we are talking boat lengths to go before they cross the finish line. I can start to understand why they're not quite celebrating yet, because there was a lot of wash that came through a few moments ago and just really lifting the bow. And it doesn't take too much with the Imoca, with any large offshore boat, when the breeze is light like we are seeing now, just to knock it off the pace. And if you start to lose that momentum, it can take an age to wind it up again. But a good indication of what's happening on board is the fact that Amory Ross, the onboard reporter, has moved back to the back of the boat to get those reactions from the team here, because that finish line is just ahead for 11th hour racing team. Surely now, as we go on board, we're going to finally see that smile from Charlie Enright. Well, the celebrations on board 11th hour racing team, and a very strong performance from Charlie Enright, Simon Fisher, Jack Butel and Francesca Klapcic on board, finding the groove for that boat from the start and on every leg as well. Not only just taking the lead, but extending as well.
Mayoral races, sailboat races. Stand by for all guys.
Just a little shout out to the mayor of Newport, Zai, who's on board with us today. He was on the Brown University sailing team with Charlie and myself. Great to have him here, and we're looking forward to get to Newport and having his welcome when we get there as well.
Well, we'll get some reaction from Charlie in just a moment, and we will wait to hear, because they are just about to fill their J0. And it's amazing to childhood friends, Mayor of Newport and the team right now. You guys are going to be sailing into that home port. It's a good way to wrap up what has been a very difficult chapter for you guys in this race. Strong performance here, good smiles, and also for Bioterm as well. Another boat that really struggled in that offshore leg, and especially in that final few days, in that final week. And we've just got just down at the bottom there, it looked like Team Holcim PRB might not be making that next mark. They've gone out of view to the left-hand side. We're staying with Bioterm at the moment, coming through the line. They are guaranteed a second right now. Paul Mayer sailing very strong, managing to slip past Kevin Escoffier. But just look at what's happening at the back here. On the left-hand side, it's another tack for Team Holcim PRB, and this could be bad. This is what we were talking about in terms of loss of momentum. To me, that J0 does not look clean, and let's not forget, as Bioterm come across that finish line and take second place, we have seen boats losing out with a bad furl on their J0.
Bravo!
Well, Bioterm across that finish line and celebrations for second place. But let's get back to that drama in third place. And we said third place, it was third place when we left it, but just what is happening now, because Team Holcim PRB were slow, and they are still slow. Team Militia now tacking to leeward on the inside. Kevin Escoffier wants to turn, he wants to go to the line, but he has not got the speed to do it. He's got to keep sailing away from the line. What an unbelievable piece of bad luck, bad positioning, a wind shift, whatever it was, perhaps even just current. But Team Holcim PRB unable to lay that last turning mark. And Will Harris has gone from a poor start, from 5th place, managed to sail past Guyot Environment Team Europe into 4th. And then just when we thought that second and third was pretty much won and lost. Team Militia have come through, and just look now, good speed for Team Militia. They are sailing clear. Will Harris and the German team on Team Militia will be taking third place, and Team Holcim PRB are going to have to work hard here to get some speed on if they don't want to lose some more. Let's go on board now with Team Militia, and what an incredible second half of that lap as it is turned around and they come across that line. I mean, Mark, we do not expect place changes like that on this kind of racing.
No, and if we look back to the start, you would have thought, you know, quite an uphill battle for Militia to get back to third, but here they are, having kept the maneuvers clean and stayed in touch with the fleet. An unfortunate situation for Holcim there, but, you know, these things happen. It's calling ley lines is always hard. You never want to give away distance, but at the same time, you do need to get around the marks cleanly. I'm sure they'll bounce back from that and be ready for Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps a wind shift, but whatever it was, this team here made the right call. Team Militia came in on that mark nicely. There's the finish line to the right-hand side of the picture, the white square with the blue bottom, and that race control boat flying the start flag. Now it's the finish line, and Team Militia go through. You can see just how much that loss of momentum and that extra 2 tacks for Team Holcim PRB has damaged them. I mean, Sam, you have raced these boats. You've raced these boats around this type of course. I mean, a loss of momentum like that and poor handling with the J0, maybe just bad luck, but amazing to see how quickly it can unravel.
Yeah, it's tricky. As I was saying, it's, the J0 it's an easy sail because you don't have to change sail, but it's a sail that you obviously have to, you can't just tack like a J3 or a J2. You can't just throw the helm across and expect the crew to follow. You need a little bit of warning to prepare the winches to furl, deploy, and obviously they realised a little bit too last minute that they were going to have to throw in 2 tacks, and with that sail on, it's just not possible. And yeah, so it's those are the manoeuvres you've got to anticipate to give the crew in the cockpit the chance to keep up with the helmsman. So yeah, unlucky with the wind and the current, and yeah, that's a hard one to have to deal with, but a bit of a trap to fall into.
Bit of a trap to fall into, and a small chink in the armour for Team Holcim PRB, a boat that's otherwise been setting the pace. But for Guyot Environment Team Europe, they unfortunately were not able to recover from that start. They were forced out on the windward end by the committee boat. Now they come across the line in 5th place. It was Team Militia that managed to sail past them, and Benjamin Détru almost got a chance to take that position back, but sadly they weren't able to hold on to it, and they weren't able to reel in the rest of the fleet. For a moment it looked like Guyot Environment Team Europe might be able to also get past Team Holcim PRB, but now 5 boats across the finish line. A faultless performance by 11th Hour Racing Team, having a strong start at the bottom, and then for Bioterm holding on in 2nd place. Some place changes, some of them highly unpredictable right at the last minute, but it just goes to show that you can't leave anything for granted. So good racing here. We were thankful to get the breeze, and as we see here, Mark, 11th Hour Racing Team just dropping the main. That's a brand new main there. Is this just a case of getting it out of the sky and putting it to bed?
No, it's great to have a new mainsail here in Brazil. That was always the plan. Didn't expect to need it, but regardless, very happy to have it. And this is a great day for the team. Obviously, a lot of work's gone into preparing the boat for this next leg, and you know, the shore crews worked incredibly hard, so I know that everybody will enjoy this tonight, and then we'll tomorrow shift our focus to getting ready for the leg.
As you say, the focus does need to switch, but for the moment we can certainly celebrate this moment along with 11th Hour Racing Team. Let's get that reaction now from skipper Charlie Enright.
So Charlie, that's another great result in the import race series. Talk me through it. It's all about the start, man. Kind of follow the leader, but conditions like this, never over till it's over. So no, it's great. I mean, you know, I start the boat and everyone else does the rest. So, you know, can't say enough about the guys down below. You don't see them, but they do all the work.
So you're pretty happy overall now? This sets you up nicely for the next leg into your own home port.
Yeah, sure. You know, if you want to draw a correlation there, I'll take it. But you know, every day is a new day. But it's a good day in Brazil.
A good day in Brazil, certainly a very good day for Charlie Enright and the rest of the team on board 11th Hour Racing Team. Not surprising to hear him share that victory with everybody down below and not being able to come up on deck and kind of share in the glory, but very much putting in the effort. So that is racing concluded for the import action here in Itajaí. All 5 boats now cross the finish line. And the question will be, what does that do to the overall scores? What does that do to this global series as we continue around the world and push on our way on Sunday out into Newport? One of the sailors that will not be on that journey, Jack Boutel, just walking past the mast at the moment, just taking off that helmet, just joining for the celebratory photograph. Jack Boutel putting in so much effort into... Let's get some more reactions from the water. Okay, we're going to come back to Pierre on the water a little bit later, but for the moment, let's stay with these boats here. Mark, just quickly, we're waiting for the scores to get confirmed. We're going to bring up the overall scoreboard, but just quickly, Jack Boutel stepping off after this performance. I mean, the boat's sailing well. Jack's doing really well. I mean, how much did he give to the boat in that last offshore leg?
Can't say enough about what Jack brought to the last leg in particular, but really to the whole campaign. He's definitely the go-to boat captain on board, and we had our fair share of issues, and he was all over it. I think it's a fine balance, as you've seen many teams looking at crew rotations. It's a fine balance between maintaining consistency within your team, but also bringing in some fresh energy and enthusiasm. And it's just one of those things that it's a fine balance to find the right path to success on that.
And everybody's been playing with those combinations, apart from really one team. Guyot Environment Team Europe took to the water today with exactly the same sailors, and obviously, I'm sure, very happy to be out on the water. Let's get a reaction now from skipper Benjamin Detwin.
Which decision? The start at the beginning, and after we have probably jibe too early in the first lap, and after that on the second downwind, Malaysia coming with pressure, and they lock us. We have tried to do some match racing with them, but the boats are expensive, so we don't want to play. Yeah, and after that we can do nothing. So yeah, I think on the bus downwind we can have a better view next time. Yeah.
We talk a lot about the emphasis on boat handling, and it is interesting to just zoom out and think about the fact that the boats that came in 4th and 5th place were the two that did have issues in their maneuvers, both with their tacks. So I think that'll be something to keep in mind moving forward if we maintain this same course access. Really not a lot of passing lanes except for the corners, and a big emphasis on consistency with the boat handling.
And really puts the pressure on those 1 or 2 critical moments. And some boats have, taken good advantage of them. One of them here, Bioterm here, managing to get through past the boats, managing to find exploitable points around the racecourse. And let's listen in now to reactions from the racing from skipper Paul Meyer.
Yeah, sorry, describe the race to me.
Describe the race? Wow. So we had a nice start, good speeds. Then I was inside, I couldn't see a lot. But I think we have really good moments. We tried not to stay calm and do things properly. And yeah, it was really nice.
Mariana Labateau on board Bioterm there with some very happy reactions from what was some good racing. And let's keep dialing into the sailors here, because of course they're going to be pulling out a lot to learn here before we get to that leg departure on Sunday. So let's go now to Team Militia and Will Harris, the new skipper, the temporary skipper, the man that is taking up the reins from Boris Herrmann. Let's hear from him after the racing.
Yeah, it was a tough start for us. In the in the start, was really, that's what this race is all about. If you were first across the line with the best wind, then you could stay ahead. And yeah, we thought it was going to be a bit of a procession after that, but Nico and Chris did a super good job of finding a way to sneak past two of the boats. First overtaking Guyot and one of the downwinds, and then Wholesome just before the finish there. So yeah, really happy that we kept pushing, kept the spirit up, and you know, it's a podium. We've given away the first place spot to 11th Hour in this series now, but you know, happy that we can show that we can come back fighting. Cool.
Always happy for anybody stepping into big shoes to fill, such as Will Harris is with Boris Herrmann stepping off. Always good to put in a strong performance. I mean, Sam, you know Will Harris pretty well. I mean, it's quite something to be given the keys to a boat like Team Militia when Boris Herrmann steps off.
Yeah, for sure, it's a responsibility. You're in charge. You're responsible for a boat and the crew, as well as performance-wise. It's also you're looking after this little family, getting them around the race course and to Newport. So yeah, it's not just steering a boat. Yeah, you're taking that responsibility, and having skippered Team Messier, I know what that feels like, and you know, sometimes you have some pretty lonely moments, but Will, and he's really well backed up by an incredible crew with Nico Lindven and Rosie, who've been there all the time, so I figure he's probably pretty relaxed about that. And I just wanted to, I think it's great. It's great to see all 5 boats out on the water and finishing this race, having, you know, seen the issues with Guyot, and I personally experienced the giving a broken boat back to a shore team, and so I'd just like to say not just the Biotherm shore team, but to all 5 shore teams who've just done miracles over the last 2 weeks to get those boats turned around, back in shape to get out there racing today. It's not been an easy feat for them, so just, you know, talking about people inside, well done to all those guys too. We don't see them, but they do amazing stuff.
You are absolutely right, and I think the racing today, but also the activity for the last few weeks here in Itajaí has really highlighted the fact that, you know, as a lot of the sailors say, this race is actually won on shore by those shore teams, by those technicians. Let's hear now from Team Wholesome PRB and skipper Kevin Escoffier, who I'm sure has got a lot to say after the racing.
English? Yes. Hi Kevin, how do you feel after this?
Very well.
I know it's always difficult, but
no, it's not difficult. It's a good start. Good speed, good first turn, perfect first turn, I think. Even if 11 has been sailing well and fast, and we lose 2 places, 1 maneuver at the bottom, and at the top we want to try something compared to Biotherm to go back to the second place, and we lose. And behind us they come back with a wind completely different, and we lose. The podium like that. That's life.
What I always really like listening to Kevin Escoffier and so many sailors in the fleet is they're pragmatic, they've got smiles, but you can hear it, Mark. You can hear it in their voice when they're not happy.
Yeah, Kevin's a competitor. I think all the sailors are, but even just watching him at the award ceremony at the Pro-Ams yesterday, he certainly enjoys being up on top, and when he's not there, he's itching to get back to the top.
Well, there is one more skipper to hear from, and that is Biotherm skipper Paul Mayer. Some incredible racing on the water. Let's hear his take after all the action.
So Paul, you had a lot of crew changes and you came second. So tell me what happened.
Exactly what I said just before the race. I think it was open, but not a lot about strategy. Wind was quite consistent and pretty stable. The boat speed was really good. And the maneuver were also good, so that's a surprise because it's the first one for all the crew, so that means that they are really strong. No, that's a really good thing. I think it's the best thing is for the short team, you know, because they work so hard, so we are so happy to come back and say it's for you. And yeah, it's good. It's a good beginning of the Atlantic session for Biotherm.
Smiles for Paul Mayer on board the Autumn, and it's just, you can feel the enjoyment that a lot of these sailors are having right now, because of course it has been a while since they have been on the water competing, but now they have got the import race completed, those points awarded, and we can take a look at exactly how everything is laying out on the scoreboard. So for the import race results, it's 11th Hour Racing team finishing in first place, with Biotherm second, taking 4 points, one behind the American team. Then Team Militia, Team Wholesome PRB and Guyot Environment, Team Europe. But the big question is, how is that going to affect the overall import series? Well, we went into today with 11th Hour Racing team and Team Militia joint on points. But now, as the results from Itajaí are added up, that tiebreak is broken. And it's Charlie Enright and 11th Hour Racing team, 2 points clear in first place. Boris Herrmann's German boat in second. And then Biotherm in third. Join on points with Team Wholesome PRB in fourth. Unable to repeat their strong offshore performance on the inshore races. And then Guyot Environment, Team Europe, yet to really get up and to find form, down in fifth place.